Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest star in the upcoming third season of Amazon's Goliath, where the great Bob Thornton plays Billy McBride, a California lawyer that likes to take on the big guys. This season, he's got a creepy family of nut farmers, played by Dennis Quaid and Amy Brenneman, who are drying up the land and kind of at war with each other. Let's take a look.
You're a lawyer. You're good at it. It's what you do.
I'm not your guy, honey.
I made mistakes. Lord struck me down.
I'm glad you reconsidered this case. The fall broke her neck. They drill all around here, sucking up the water right and left. My wife is dead. Someone has to be responsible.
Real sorry for your loss, Gene.
That's Wade Blackwood, Young's Tallgrass Farms.
Big farm, right?
The biggest.
Lawyers poking around. He asked the right questions. This is gonna be a big problem.
Why drag this all out? We're both tired.
Oh, I can go all night.
Well, if you feel that way about it, I guess I'm just gonna have to settle up.
We are going up against the biggest law firms in the state, representing one of the wealthiest men in the country.
You have 2 weeks to find something, or I'll have no choice but to rule in favor of the defense.
You privatized a public resource for your own financial gain.
All perfectly legal.
I think we should let a jury decide if what's legal.
Nothing's gonna stop us.
Just be careful. Nothing here is what it seems.
How worried do I need to be about you?
No more than usual. So confident.
Everybody, please welcome Dennis Quaid, Amy Brenneman, and Bob Thornton. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Congrats on season 3. I love it. As I said, it's a little creepy. It's a little surreal. I think what I like about Goliath as of right now is as it changes per season, I think it becomes even more surreal and more strange, especially in the case of its villains. And I feel like that probably gives you guys a lot to chew on as characters.
Who plays the villain?
Oh, excuse me. I guess, the trailer kind of sold it a little bit. Billy, how has the show been for you? Have you noticed that the creators and the writers are changing things up just a little bit and evolving season by season?
Yes, absolutely. It started off pretty well, and I liked doing season 2 as much as I liked season 1. I liked season 2 even more, and I liked this one even better than that. So that seems to be the right trajectory.
Yeah.
It's not getting worse. It's getting better. What do you love about playing this character?
I'm just kind of playing myself, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Yeah.
I don't notice much of a change from the trailer to the set.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, it's Dennis and I go way back, and so we had
How far back?
Probably 25 years.
Something like that. Yeah. Well, them Oscar parties, you know.
Oh yeah. Divorces, marriages, kids, everything.
If you're playing a version of yourself, they call cut, they call action. Are you not really? You just have to know your lines and then just step in and say it as you would say anything.
He doesn't know his lines.
Yeah. Sometimes I will go off the script a little. You never know. But I don't like to know my lines very well, because in real life, you don't know what you're going to say or what they're going to say to you. So I only look at my stuff right when I get there.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Makes me a good listener.
No.
Because you're sitting there thinking of your line?
Well, I'm sitting there listening to what they're saying, and that way I'll know my line.
Right, you can respond. A good line is like a
Exactly.
response to another.
That's right.
Yeah. Have you found over the years, I think back to your first breakthrough role, One False Move, a movie that you wrote. I love that movie, but it's a completely different kind of character than you play now. And you had these string of characters in the 90s where it felt like the sort of Billy Bob Thornton idea of a character hadn't been developed yet. Does it feel like when people approach you for parts, it's usually kind of like, this is you?
Yeah, probably more so. I mean, it used to be that, well, you go through different periods. After we did Bad Santa, for instance, then every time they needed a profane alcoholic, they called me. And that was just from hanging out at Hollywood and Vine. And then, yeah, after Sling Blade, the same thing happened. Every time they had another movie about a mental institution, they called me. So sometimes Hollywood's imagination can be based upon, what was just successful, And these days, when you get to be an actor of a certain age, and you've been around, you're kind of a veteran, they start to just count on you more.
Count on you more?
Yeah,
like
count on you more. In other words, they want whatever your personality is more and more as you go along, I think.
And they can kind of also count on you to sort of anchor the ship a little bit.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Amy, Dennis, the two of you play brother and sister in this with a strange relationship, I guess?
Love is love.
Love is love. You okay. Can you talk about developing that and what it was like doing some of those scenes?
Well, originally, I think the two characters were married the way they wrote them. But they thought it'd be more interesting if we were brother and sister. But they forgot to take out a couple of parts in the script about it. And so it wound up the way it wound up, which is a little odd, I will say. It makes for an interesting relationship.
Well, it gives every scene between the two of you a tension, an extreme tension for the audience. It's like, oh, when are they gonna? They're not gonna kiss,
but you
are
can't
they?
stop watching at the same time,
What is it like playing a scene where you are, in many ways, seducing your scene partner because there's something that you want from them, but at the same time, it is a taboo. To say the
It
least.
feels like being a woman in today's culture.
Say that again, Amy?
Feels like being a woman in today's culture. Like we just have to seduce for what we want. What does it feel like? It feels great. I don't know. I just thought I think Diana's incredible spirit, actually. I think seduction is the best word. I mean, I think she is a saleswoman and a seductress. And the less I worried about, if she was moral or if the audience would like her, the more fun I had.
Well, you don't have to worry about whether or not she's moral. I mean, as a viewer, I get the impression that if there is a slight moral compass within this family, it lies within Dennis's character. He seems like he is, I don't know where that's going to go, but it seems like at every step of the way, he knows he has to go this distance, but feels bad about it.
I come from the traditions, like our great-grandfather is the one who brought the water to this valley, and this season, Goliath is about water. That's really what it's about. And my sister had been basically kicked out of the family mysteriously, but some time ago.
With your head.
Now you're
Don't
back.
do that with your head. Like
I was
that,
just doing that with time.
I was like judgy.
How far back? And now she's back. Because I want her back. She's the only family I have, and she's bringing this whole other line of the business. But at the same time, there's this kind of love. I won't call it hate, but it's somebody. It's like we're gonna kill each other. Mm-hmm. We even play a game with that in this season.
She's also completely free and out of bounds, and so when I get into, it's not even like when I work on her. When she sort of comes over me, it's like she's boundary free, right? So she's, loves who she loves. She's a microdoser, so the whole the mental health and non-mental. And so literally the reason I come back is because they need somebody to save the business. And there's a psychedelia aspect to this whole thing. And so when I go there, I come back with the ideas, to save. So she's extremely free. And I think that she also is a female in a really chauvinistic world, right? And so all the kind of the kitten-esque, she uses what she's got, which I think is actually pretty relatable.
She actually comes back to destroy the business.
What are you talking about? Oh my God, we'll talk later.
I'm glad you guys are saying this stuff, though, because like I said, I had no idea what it was
We're
about.
still having the same argument. I can't believe it.
I'm just learning this. I never read the script.
You got your scenes on the day, showed up, did the sides, went home. Have you seen the show, Billy? Have you seen Goliath?
You're really good.
You know, I haven't seen anything I've been in years.
I thought so. I mean, not because of you, but I think a lot of actors are like that. What's the last thing you've seen that you were in?
The Poseidon Adventure.
Did you play Sally Winter?
Yeah. No, I was just a twinkle in Ernest Borgnine's eye. No, I generally, as a rule, in the last probably 15, 16 years, I just don't watch what I do.
Well, I'd imagine if you're coming from a place where you used to be, I'm sure you still write and plan to direct at some point, but if you were writing and directing yourself, you can control your performance and you basically can distance yourself a little bit from yourself on screen, whereas if you don't have control over that, it's probably really hard to watch after having that control.
Well, in some ways, I mean, the main reason I don't watch is because, I'll put it to you this way. I don't watch it if it's successful. I grew up as a baseball player, and there are certain superstitions that baseball players have. And if you notice, there are guys, there's a guy in Colorado on the Rockies who has a beard down to, he looks like he's in ZZ Top. And it's because, once he started growing that beard, all of a sudden he went on a hitting streak. Now he's hitting 350. And he keeps growing the beard out. And if something isn't quite as successful, I'll watch it to see, okay, what were they saying? Why was it not? And I want to see if I agree with that. If something's doing fine, I just think, well, maybe I better not screw this up by watching it. So
was there a moment in your career when
that
that superstition developed? Something successful that you saw and didn't get, and you were like, okay, well, then I'm just not going to even participate.
I don't remember the moment it was, the movie it was, or anything like that. I do know that the second Bad Santa wasn't as successful as the first one, so I watched it. That's the only thing I've watched in the last few years.
And you've never seen the first Bad Santa?
Yes, I actually have. Yeah, that's back when I was still watching things. But I watched the second one because I was thinking, well, I was there. I remember what we did, and I watched it, and it's pretty damn good. And yeah, I thought it was very good. It wasn't a whole lot different in a lot of ways than the first one was. And then I realized that it's not only the difference in a couple of movies, it's also society changes. So the first Bad Santa came out back when it was fine to be a profane, thief, alcoholic guy who said very nasty things. And these days it's harder to say nasty things. And I think society has changed to where that movie wasn't exactly what everybody wanted to hear at the time.
Yeah. Do you guys watch your work?
I do.
Yeah, I see it. I'm superstitious about reading reviews. I don't reread them.
That makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no,
Good
I
or
do.
bad?
I remember when I was producing Judging Amy, and I thought, like, how am I going to edit myself? That's going to be so weird. And I just switched hats in a second. It's like, oh, yeah, that was a fun moment, but you don't need it. I mean, you just sort of go. And so I feel like when I watch myself, it's almost like as a producer. It's like, okay, what works, what doesn't, and everyone's. I always think
when you
I
have
do
that control, it seems like it's easier to watch yourself because you can produce it, you can separate yourself. If you don't have that control, then you're just sort of at the mercy of everybody else's decision.
You are at the mercy, but that's where you're careful who you're working with. I mean, yes, of course. Coming as a stage actress, of course, that's the first thing that happens when going into film and television. It's like, oh my God, I give you my gold, and then you create, your little thing in the woodshed, right? But then you do your research as best you can up front. And yes, of course, you have to trust editorial if you don't have final cut, which very few people do.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing about that is that, and this is another reason why I tend to not look at things, is because you're there and you know what you did. I know what Dennis did, I know what Amy did, and we have this scene, and I know that scene was really good. But we, like you said, we have no control over how they're going to cut that. So if there's a moment in there that's really kind of cool, but maybe it was silent for a second and somebody gave somebody a weird look, you know damn well that's exactly what they're going to cut. And I don't want to see that. Yeah. I want the memory of what it really was there. On this show, according to people who like it and even fellow castmates, they cut this show very well. Oh, yeah. So maybe one of these days I'll watch it when I get to be, well, I'm in my late 80s now. When I get to be like 120, I may watch it.
Just hooked up to a machine. Dennis?
I feel like I myself, I just got immune to it. I just felt, because it's out there or whatever, and you don't have any control anyway over it, and it's not that big of a deal.
I also had it gone the other way, where I've had a smaller part in something, or didn't think, and then it's cut beautifully. I mean, that's what's really interesting about this art form. It becomes what it's going to be. I've had it often. I mean, I watched the first 3 episodes of this, and I knew it was good, but it is beautiful because the thing you don't know when you're doing a scene is how it's going to look, and it's a visual art form. So it's a stunningly beautiful season. I mean, it's like, it's anamorphic. It's like, my filmmaker husband was like crying. He's like, it's anamorphic. It's so pretty. So that's what you can't, as an actor in it, appreciate. So yeah,
I love the psychedelic stuff in this season. I especially love within the first episode this incredible scene between the many Dennises. It's a bit like being Dennis Quaid almost.
That was fun to shoot.
Yeah, where you're singing on the stage and then you're looking at an audience of many Dennis Quaids.
I had to shoot. I had to be like about 70 or 80 Dennis Quaids. Yeah. I lost count after 50.
I feel like you were stuck in that for like 4 days. Like, what's Dennis doing? Like, more of those things?
I just moved from theater seat to theater seat, and they would shoot a different version of my personality, I guess.
I remember a night back in the early 2000s, we were in Austin, Texas, and I remember seeing a bunch of you.
We had a good time, so they tell us.
That's what they say.
The cast of Goliath has always been fantastic from first season to this season. One of the faces of the show that I love so much, and I'm so excited that he's been a part of it, is Paul Williams. Yeah. How did that happen? How did he get involved? I mean, he's such a sort of like a undersung legend of movies and music. It's amazing to have him there.
Well, the way that came about, I love casting a little bit outside the box, and even as a director, I've cast people before that, just somebody I knew that worked at the dry cleaners. Hey, will you come be in a movie?
Or Jim Jarmusch and Sling Blade.
Jim Jarmusch was in Sling Blade. That's right. And so they were trying to cast that part. So who would have been an old lawyer buddy of yours who now lives off the grid in an old motorhome? And I swear to God, I didn't even skip a beat. I said, Paul Williams. And they go, Paul Williams? And then they go, you mean the little songwriter guy? And I go, yeah, that guy. And they say, you know him? I said, yeah, he's an old friend of mine. And they said, I thought they were going to treat it negatively because they said, Paul Williams. And instantly Larry Trilling said, that's brilliant. Can you call him? And next thing you know, Paul was in it. And, but stuff like that that's what makes something. Because instead of just getting, like you take, okay, here are these 11 or 12 actors who are on the list of people that play that kind of part, and you've just seen them in 30 other things.
Doing that kind of part.
Kind of part. It's like, why not do something that because Paul hadn't been in anything in years. And he was all for it. And, he was a real trooper, too, because Paul is brilliant. He's terrific. And he's been Paul is like late 70s or something like that. And, man, he was there every day. The only thing with Paul is Paul, sometimes he doesn't hear so well. And he would he would yell at me in the middle of scenes, You're being rude to me. I can't hear you. You have to speak up. I said, I'm a mush-mouth hillbilly. I can't help it. And then all of a sudden the crew had to stand there while he and I argue with each other at the table, Of course, we do we do this in real life, man. But it's just, it was a pretty funny little show sometimes in the middle of scenes sometimes.
Phantom of the Paradise occupies a very deep space in my heart, so it's always amazing to see him
yeah,
here.
he's amazing.
Yeah,
Terrific.
And you also have Graham Greene as well in this, and you have Beau Bridges who has a part. You get a few scenes with the two of them. As do you. What was it like doing? I mean, those specifically, excuse me, those psychedelic scenes with the two of them.
Oh yeah, but Beau. I just remember him going back to when I first came to Hollywood from Texas, and this is the first time I got to work with him. Although he used to be around, we used to have, like with my brother and stuff. We used to hang out with them, and he plays like the moral compass in the story, really. And God, he's such a great actor, and Billy. That's the great thing about being in a Billy Bob show, because he just puts people together, and he just permeates the set with who he is, and it's just a nice place to go to work every day. And the actors, we feel great being there.
Billy, you haven't directed a movie in a few years, right? Since 2012, 2014?
Yeah, somewhere in there, yeah.
Do you have any plans to direct again, or is working on a show like this and being able to help with casting sort of fulfill a little bit of that, or satisfy a little bit of that desire?
Yeah, it does satisfy it. I don't know that I'll direct anything else. I think maybe I'm obsolete as a director at this point. I just don't think the kind of stories I have to tell as a writer and director are the kinds of things people want to see these days. Because most of the things I would write and direct are based on, like, Southern literature. I mean, I was more influenced by, Flannery O'Connor and, Erskine Caldwell and people like that. And I just don't know if that's relevant in today's society.
What goes around comes around.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, But, I mean, the last movie I directed, I tend to direct a lot of these little movies that people don't see, and the ones who do see them go, what the hell was that? and then 3 or 4 years later, all of a sudden, people love it when they see it on Showtime in the middle of the night or whatever, So it would be nice if they'd like them instantly, so I wouldn't have to wait 3 or 4 years to find out I didn't screw it up after all.
Yeah, I read a quote from John Carpenter recently where someone told him, "I loved The Thing so much, I saw it a few years later," and he said, "Thanks, that didn't help me out at all at the box office."
Yeah, right. Exactly, yeah.
I think we have a question coming in from Twitter. It was, how was the experience of working together, and would you like to do this again in the future?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't we doing it in the future?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Great.
I loved working on this. I would totally do it in the future. I don't know if anyway, won't talk about that. I just want to add on something that Dennis said, which is, and this is going to make me sound like an old lady, but I think because of smartphones and social media and everything else, when there's a 20-minute, turnaround on the set, that used to be, before all that, people would hang out, right? And a lot of people smoked, or Tyne Daly would knit a hat, or like people would just hang out, right? And now, and I do it too. It's like you have 20 minutes, you check your email or whatever. These guys know how to hang. They really know how to hang. And I worked more with Dennis, but that day it was meant so much to me, where I was in my trailer, like doing something for my kid. I don't know what I was doing, making phone calls. And like Billy Bob's like, ding, ding, ding. He's like, "You want to hang out?" I was like, I totally want to hang out. Like, I totally want to hang out. And I think that was part of the feeling too, that it's like a set can be a social place too. And then that feeds into, especially the way you work and inviting friends on, it becomes this really, and also the way you improv. So it becomes this really porous experience of the relationships, when the cameras aren't going. And I do find, like, sometimes with younger folks that may not know how to do that as well, everybody retreats into their little, jack off smartphone moment.
Yeah, there was a lot of. Has anybody seen Billy and Dennis?
I think we just experienced that actually about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, it helps too. Like, look out there, the cell service sucks out there, so it's good for socializing.
A couple questions from the audience. A few questions right here.
Hi. My question is to all of you. Is there anything in particular that you enjoy more or less now working on a new project compared to the beginning of your career? And what advices would you give to the new actors that just start working?
I think I enjoy it more now a lot than I did when I first started. Because when I first started, I was trying to get somewhere, be somebody, or be this or that, or whatever, And now I just enjoy doing it for the sake of doing it. I have more fire in my belly now than I did back then, to tell you the truth. Because I think I'm doing it more for the right reasons, because I just love it.
Yeah, for sure. And just I feel like honestly, the things that I always thought were going to be a hit weren't. The things I didn't think were going to be a hit, like all of the logic. It's like just do something because you want to do it, and the people are great and stuff. And also, I feel like I'm much more writer friendly now, where rather than like I want to be fantastic, it's like what's the story? What's the story that we are collectively telling? And then I think also like what's the vibe? Because it is such a collaborative art form. It's crazy collaborative, and sometimes I feel like people that don't get that should write a novel or paint it. There's other art forms that are not collaborative, but this it's more like getting into the culture of the piece and what is the story we're collectively telling.
That's so interesting because some of your earliest roles were with some of the greatest writers of film and TV. I mean, you think of Michael Mann, or you think of David Chase on NYPD Blue, right? I mean, did you find at that point that maybe you didn't need to be that kind of collaborative with them because those writers don't necessarily need a collaboration of that?
Each thing teaches you different things. I mean, I think that those early days, honestly, as a young woman, it was more like, oh, I've been chosen, right? And the man is choosing me, and I'm part of this thing. But I come from this theater ensemble, so I always thought like all of these guys. I literally think of it in terms of self-expression and storytelling. Sometimes it's a song, sometimes you're directing, sometimes I'm directing. Like the whole thing of like being a starlet, which never suited me very well anyway. So then when I ran my own shop for a while, I definitely kind of worked on that muscle, and now it's like. I always said with Judging Amy, like I was throwing the party and people were gracious enough to help me tell my story. And so that allows me to I don't have to steal focus all the time. It's like, what's the story? I mean, Leftovers taught me that. It's like, let me serve the story rather than serve myself, which I didn't really get earlier.
Yeah, same. And what they said, that's the thing. As you go along, you do it because you love it and you have a passion for it, and early on, you're looking for something. You're needing approval. You're looking for the next job. You want to do whatever. And then once you've kind of done everything, and like those kind of goals have already happened for you. You've won some awards and you've done these things and you got some accolades. Then you're not chasing anything anymore. You're just doing this thing that you love, And in terms of when you asked the question about what advice for young actors, one of the things is which one of those reasons do you want to do it for? Do you want to do it for fame and money and attention, or do you want to do it because there's something inside you that wants to be an artist and you have something to say? And that's why, if you're the latter, then my suggestion is for all actors, whether you use it for anything or not. I think every actor should write. I think even if you write it for yourself, write a short story or write a screenplay for yourself. I mean, without any expectation from it, just to learn. A story, because all of a sudden all these actors and all these characters start coming into you as you're writing and stuff, and I think it helps you as an actor. Just like I think all writers at some point should take an acting class or something. Kind of see, because we tell writers all the time. We're always saying, look, do you mind if I change this to that, or you just change it anyway without asking, because they need to know how people talk. And sometimes writers who have only been writers, they live in this vacuum of like poetry and words, and oh, that looks amazing on my page. And then when Fred or Tanya or somebody try to say it, it sounds really wooden or weird, or people don't talk that way. So I think that you need to know all the different jobs. You have to know why a director wants this. Like, for instance, a director, one of the most important jobs of a director is you have to have an overview. So if you're doing 8 episodes of a thing like we did, we come to work that day doing 3 scenes from episode 2. Well, if Amy bursts into tears and falls to the ground, starts kicking her heels, the director may come over and go, hey, listen, why don't you save that for episode 7? You know, it's not quite time to let the tension go yet. You know what I mean? Or they may tell me, you know, get out of Dennis's trailer, will you? No, it's like...
he just likes other people's trailers.
I do.
He doesn't want to be alone in his trailer.
You know what? I swear, it's the truth. I got the crummiest trailer on the set. Anyway,
you think that
I really
was intentional? Like they learned after season 1, you'll never be in your trailer, so give Billy the shit one.
They did. Their trailers are way better.
I think that was a way to get him out of his trailer, actually.
But anyway, on a serious note, I think that's important for actors to know all about making this stuff and about stories and stuff, as opposed to just learning actor tricks and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, if you have something in you that is an actor, you don't need tricks. You really don't. All you got to do is put every bit of yourself into every character. I don't care who you're playing. It's got to be you at the end of the day. Yeah. So. Yeah.
That scares me with Diana. But anyway, moving on.
A couple more questions. Who is right here? Hi.
Hello. So my question is for all 3 of you. If you had to live the life of any past character that you played, which one would you pick?
Gordo Cooper, The Right Stuff. He was an astronaut, still wearing his watch.
What do you think? Yeah, that's a great question, by the way. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I'd want to live her life, but I got to play Mary Cassatt once, the painter, and that was pretty cool. So I'll say that.
Yeah, I got to tell you.
Santa.
Okay. Oh no, she's saying things that I haven't lived. I mean, honestly, I've lived a lot of my characters, but maybe there's a movie I did that nobody really probably knows anything about, but I did this movie called The Astronaut Farmer, where I built this rocket. It was just a guy who, used to be an astronaut. He wants to build his own rocket, and he does it. And it's kind of like an old-fashioned movie. It's like, well, would this really happen? Maybe not. But, neither would It's a Wonderful Life. So I liked the sort of Jimmy Stewart aspect of that character, and living on this ranch. A guy just wanted to go to space, and it's something he built himself, and he's got this family that he loves, and it was a nice thing.
But you and Gordo could have been still good friends.
Well, absolutely. Oh yeah, we both picked space stuff.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Good.
Yeah. Sure.
One more.
Hi guys. My question is like many people believe that the actors have a fun, creative, carefree life, which takes place during interviews, in restaurants, in travels. And what does one of your life really look like?
Just like that. I wake up doing an interview. Basically, I just get up and take the kids to school, go play golf, and I'm working all the time, actually. That's what I've never been busier in my life, so I kind of almost don't know what I'm doing from day to day. I just go where they point, but I'm enjoying it. I just try to enjoy life as it is. I guess what your question is kind of, it seems like really glamorous to on the outside, and I wouldn't call it glamorous, but I call it pretty lucky. Actually, it's a pretty lucky life I've gotten to live. You know, especially like I guess from because I got to do what I wanted to do in life, and that's you know, there's a lot of actors in the Screen Actors Guild, and only about a 0.01% of them get to work on any given day, and so I've been able to do that throughout my entire career. So I feel really lucky.
Thank you so much, Dennis.
Yeah, same thing here. I'm very fortunate. I'm proud and thankful for everything that's ever come my way or any of it, and it's. I spend a good deal of my days when I'm not working watching a show called Steven Universe with my 14-year-old daughter, and I probably watch that 3 or 4 hours a day, and then I go to work. And then she calls me and she says, when do we get to watch Steven again? And I say, well, Saturday and Sunday we can watch it. And that's one of the greatest things about getting to a place in your career where you can do something for your kids. Because my kids could care less, you know, about me as an. They see me on a poster and they're like, "Dad, you look weird there. You're really looking old. You got bags under your eyes." I'm like, "Thanks." And but I was able to introduce my daughter to all these voice actors who do voices on Steven Universe, so I'm a huge hero to her. And so I spend time with my kids on the weekend. I go out with my boys who are in their mid-20s, and we're like buddies. And then you go off to work, and you come home, and you're a family guy again. And that's really what it's all about, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is the lead. I mean, honestly, the glamour thing is the thing I'm least interested in or particularly good at. I never, I have 2 kids. I just spend my time in the car driving them around. But the really great thing, and to piggyback on what they're saying about being lucky, is, you know, I come from lawyers. I come from a lot of lawyers. I do come from writers as well. But, you know, this idea of, I have this kooky idea, and I could literally email Billy Bob and go is this a bad idea or a good idea? And you'd meet for coffee. We're hive mind, you know what I mean? We are like farmers, except we till these ideas. And sometimes it's just such a pleasure to be in that world, because if I wasn't, I would be really lonely, right? I mean, you get to connect on these ideas. And nothing, I love when people say, I have a screenplay and we're getting together some people to read it. It's like, right, you know, that's what we do. We help tell stories. And I think their culture needs some new stories. And so that's what I love. I mean, it's so funny, even your question is there's 0.1% of my time that is spent in false eyelashes. I mean, I wish more, but I can't really do my own makeup. But the glamour thing, as saying, my children find it utterly embarrassing. Really, really, really embarrassing, the fact that their mother does what she does.
Thank you so much, guys.
Guys, I love the show. Congrats on season 3. Incredible performances all around, including Paul Williams. It premieres October 4th on Amazon Prime. Everybody give them a huge round of applause for coming out today. Thank you.